In this video, we'll look at function notation. Remember from the previous videos, we know that a function is some relationship where each input variable only maps to one output variable. When dealing with functions, we often use the notation lowercase f parentheses x instead of the variable y. So we would replace the variable y with f parentheses x. This helps us define that x is the independent or input variable, and lowercase f is the dependent or output variable. We read this notation, f parentheses x, as f of x. So when you hear me say f of x, I'm talking about this notation, f parentheses x. The phrase evaluate f of 4 means to plug the value 4 in for x and evaluate the result. For example, if I was given the function f of x equals square root of x plus 3, and I was asked to find f of -9, f of 0, and f of 49, that would mean that I want to take those values and plug them in for x. So let me do f parentheses -9 first. That means I'm going to take the -9 and put it in my function for x. So I get square root of -9, and then outside of the square root, a plus 3. Now I have a slight problem here because I have square root of a negative number, which I cannot do. So I would say that this is undefined. Or I could say that there's no solution. So both of those would be valid answers, undefined or no solution, because we can't take the square root of a negative number. So that's a perfectly valid answer saying that the function is undefined at that point, or there's no solution at that point. Let's look at the next one, f parentheses 0. So I would read this as f of 0, and it means I'll take 0 and plug it into this equation where I see the x. So I'll get square root of 0, and then add 3. So that would become 0 plus 3, which is 3. So my output here is 3, and the way I would write that is I would write f parentheses 0 equals 3. So that's how the notation works. If I wanted to find f of 49, I would plug 49 in for x. So I'd do square root of 49, and then I would add 3. Square root of 49 is 7, so I'll have 7 plus 3, which is 10. So my output would be 10, and I could write that as f parentheses 49 equals 10. So these would be the appropriate ways to write our function notation. You take the input value, plug it into your function for x, and then the output is your result. Let's do one where we have a rational function. So we have a function h defined as h of x equals quantity 2x plus 1, and that whole quantity is over the quantity 6x plus 3. We want to find h of -4. So h of -4 means that -4 is going to be the x value or the input value. So I'll have 2 parentheses, -4, close the parentheses, plus 1. All of that is over 6 times -4 plus 3. So I'm taking the -4, I'm putting it into this expression everywhere I see an x. And now I just work it out. So I'm going to have 2 times -4 is -8. I have a plus 1. In the denominator, I have 6 times -4 is -24. And I'm going to add 3 to that. So the numerator is -8 plus 1, which is -7. The denominator is -24 plus 3, which is -21. A negative over a negative equals a positive. So I get 7 over 21. And I always want to reduce my fraction if I can. 7 goes into itself 1 time. 7 goes into 21 3 times. So my final answer would be 1/3. And using the appropriate notation, I would have h of -4 equals 1/3. So that's how function notation works. Whatever number you see in the parentheses, that's what you plug in for x or for whatever your input value is. Let's look at function notation and how it would work with a graph. So here I have the graph of a function f given below, and you can see it's this upside down kind of frowny curve. We want to find one value of x for which f of x equals 3. So f of x represents the output. So f of x is used in place of y. So when I see this, this means for which y equals 3. So on my graph, I could look at the line y equals 3. And there are actually 2 points on the graph where y equals 3. So I have the point 2, 3, and I have the point -2, 3. So my answer for find one value of x for which f of x equals -3 would be f of x equals 3 for the values, for the x values, x equals -2 and x equals +2. Either of these would be an acceptable answer because they just ask for one value, so I could answer either one and get it correct. So that's the first one. Let's call that part A. Now part B is to find f of 0. Now in function notation, whatever's plugged into the parentheses, that's your x value. So that's an x value of 0. So I go to where x equals 0, and I want to look at where my graph is, and I have the point 0, 5. So I know that when x equals 0, y equals 5. So that means that f of 0 equals 5. So my answer there would just be the 5. That would be my answer for part B. My answer for part A would either be x equals -2, or I could answer x equals +2, since they just asked for one value. So when they say f of x equals 3, that 3 is the y value, the output. And when you see f parentheses 0, the thing in the parentheses is the x value.